Welcome to another episode of On Report. Today we're going to be tackling the issue and have a discussion about the evolution of the Super League, and who better to talk about it with than two stalwarts of the competition, the recently retired Briers and St Helens Paul Wellens. Two players that have spent entire careers in the top flight, more than 800 games between you. You've seen the highs, the lows, the changes of the competition, so you have an expert opinion on the changes and how it's evolved over the years. Paul, tell us, what's been, do you think, the biggest change since its inception back in 1996 for you?
Well, I think, in 1996 was the kind of birth of professionalism, really, professional rugby league. But I think over the years, people have kind of learned more about what it is to be professional. I mean, being professional is not quite simply just about getting paid to do a job. It's about the way you act, your diet, the way you train, the way you conduct yourself. All these things go into making you a professional person. I think, for the last 17, 18 years, I've seen that continue to grow. Whereas now, I think the game's as professional as it's ever been. Both in terms of the players' attitudes and the way they conduct themselves, but also where the clubs invest the time and their efforts into improving the players, whether it's in the diet, the conditioning, the fitness, the body fats, things like that. They've very much got the finger on the pulse, with everything.
Lee, is it the same for you? Because of course you both came into it in 1998, where the Super League was kind of just coming into fruition. What have you seen change and develop over the years that you were involved?
Yeah, I think that's what Paul just said. I think hit the nail on the head. Obviously the social side, probably we were just coming out of the semi-professional to the professional when we first joined, and obviously the social side was still heavily involved, and nowadays you've got the young lads coming up who are a different breed, and obviously the social side's probably gone out of it more than anything. You've got full-time nutritionists now. At the start it was just literally eat what you want, if you like, and there's basically somebody for everything you need, and especially with the top clubs. And you've got statisticians, like I said, a nutritionist, the analysts, kicking coaches, backs coach, forwards coach. So there's a whole wide range of stuff what you have at the top clubs. And when I first started, you probably had one coach, was a main coach, a conditioner, and that was it, with 30 players and a tiny little gym somewhere in a shed, and it's far from that now, and it'll still grow to get even bigger.
So certainly taking the game more seriously, as you say, more professionally. How have you seen then something like training change over the years?
Yes, it's all individualised mostly. I always remember having the argument with an old conditioner. He wanted me to put weight on, and he wanted Steve McCuddy to lose weight, and we was doing the same weights training. And so it's moved on a lot. It's the sports science behind it. It's fantastic, and like I say, it's more individualised, but then put into the team.
I think as well, you go back, a number of years where there was the old, if you didn't perform well on the weekend, the coaches would have you in the next day and they'd be training you hard, or they'd be flogging you as kind of some sort of punishment. But kind of that attitude's gone out the window now. A lot of it's about your recovery, your rest, your recuperation. Making sure you get yourself right so you can perform next week. And again, that comes back to the professional side of things. I think not only have players learned and to adapt to professional rugby, but certainly the coaches have as well. And they realise that actually players, we're not robots. We can't just keep churning performances out week in, week out. We need to be looked after. We have finely tuned athletes, or some of us are. Yeah. And like Lee said, when you get to the back end of your career, like we both are, it's you need looking after that a little bit more. There's no point spending hours and hours out on the training field during the course of a week if you're not going to be able to perform well on a weekend.
Certainly in terms of personal changes, you've seen that. In terms of the competition, there's been so many different developments over the years. Perhaps one of the first ones for you guys was the playoff system. Do you remember that coming in and the feelings around that whole competition at the time back in '98?
Yeah, I think it was kind of at first difficult to get your head around, because I think, you know, very much in the English culture is that first past the post is the winner. That's the way the football is and the way it's always stuck. But yeah, I think it is a great concept. I think, you know, during the course of a season, you know, teams will have, you know, periods of good form, periods of poor form. But what's key with the playoffs is that you have to time your own right, and what it does allow you to do is, if you have, say, a horror run with injuries, say in March or April, or you can recover from that. You can get the squad fit, and you can still have a good tilt at the title, which you know, under the old format you wouldn't be able to do.
Right, yourself, do you remember that whole feeling, perhaps if someone finished fourth, they were still going to go on and perhaps have the chance to lift a major trophy at the end of it?
Yeah, it felt weird at first, you know, and big believer in the first past the post, but it's been in for how long now, nearly 20 years, so hey, we're all used to it now, and I think there is too many people who want to keep knocking it, and it is what it is, and it's a great concept. It's not going to go back to the old stuff, so let's just get on with it and
I think what we'd like as players, and certainly I would, I think you'd like the team that finishes top to get more recognition.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe something like, you know, the team that finishes top plays in the World Cup Challenge, for example, rather than the team that wins the Grand Final. I think, you know, something to actually give it some, you know, give it the credit that it deserves, really, because to finish top, to perform consistently well over 27 rounds of rugby, you know, it takes some doing, so I think it needs to be rewarded.
Are there any other kind of ideas and concepts that you think haven't quite worked? There's been so many different things that have evolved and changed and come in and out. The club call, the licensing aspect of things, and the fallout from that. The topic that a lot of people talk about still now, the salary cap. Do you think there are still changes in there, without moving on to what's about to come in for Super League? Do you think there are still things that need tweaking?
Yeah, there is, and there's been things what's worked as well. You like to the 40-20 has been brought in, and obviously we all seem to be dead negative because of the salary cap issues, and but the salary cap's been there for a reason, that it's meant to draw people closer, teams closer. I don't know if it's worked. I'm not that deep into it, but we only can do what we can do. There's not that much money in rugby league. You know, we've got to find a way of dealing with it.
I think the frustrating thing for me with the salary cap is that what originally it was probably designed for is to create, like Lee said, a level playing field across the 12 clubs, by some of the top players at the top clubs not being able to get the money there, so they would move to a so-called lesser club. But actually what it's done is that those top players actually either go to Rugby Union in the likes of Kyle Eastman, or to the NRL in terms of Sam Burgess and Stan Tompkins. Now, what we really can't afford to do as a game is to lose, you know, top quality talent year on year. So, you know, that's certainly something that needs addressing.
You mentioned NRL. Was there a point, do you think, during over the years where there's been a real influx of overseas players coming over here because the Super League has been attractive to them? And what do you think has been attractive about the Super League that has brought them here? Was there a certain point, you think, where there was a lot of people coming over?
I think it's been too easy for average overseas players to get into this competition, and let's face it, there's some of them who's been on really good money, and I think we need to draw up a system between the clubs of, let's say, if you've not played more than 50 NRL games, you're on a certain amount of money. If you get past that, you're on another band. We tend to use the easy escape of, let's get an Australian and pay him big money, where we could develop our youngsters and give our youngsters a bit more opportunities. Now, whether that's going to happen now, there's promotion and relegation, who knows.
Can you compare Super League with something like the NRL? We mentioned the Burgess brothers, the high profile sign of Sam Tompkins going over there. Is the Super League still attractive today when you've got the NRL? Can you compare the two?
It's difficult to compare, isn't it? I mean, and what you have to say, you know, you look at Sam Burgess or Sam Tompkins, you can't blame them for going. You know, they've got one career, 10, 12 years if you're lucky, to earn some good money and set yourself up. And you know, the NRL is probably the place to go to do that at the moment. But what we've got to create in Super League is a real attractive environment to be in, and where players can get paid you know, good money to stay in the competition. You know, we're very fortunate at St Helens recently to re-sign James Roby. Now, James went on record as saying that actually, his family situation, he's got kids in school here, things like that, is kind of factors that determine whether he stayed. Whether, he'd have been in a different situation as a single lad, whether he would have stayed. But, we've kind of got lucky in that situation, in my opinion. But who's to say what's going to happen in the future?
But also, you've attracted as well the likes of Luke Walsh, who's a regular halfback, and he's not the back end of his career. So we've got Briers Paul, so we are attracting the top players. It's just that I think the bottom clubs, if you like, are just picking players up to maybe fill numbers.
So you think we need to be producing more homegrown Super League stars?
It's still attractive. It's still a great competition for a lot of people, and we just need to maintain and build on it.
There are a lot of very, very good young players in this country who probably don't get the opportunities that they deserve, I would say. There are probably only a minority of clubs who really invest well into the youth systems and make a really determined effort to bring through players. Now, like for me, we've been lucky at St Helens that we've brought through good young players. I know, Lee Warrington, they've been involved with, and they've brought some good young players through. Look at Wigan, who do it well, Leeds do it well. And it's no coincidence those teams that are doing well are very invariably the teams that are always fighting out towards the top of the league, because these good young players are so valuable to your squad. And I think we need to make a real concerted effort, not just through 4 or 5 clubs, but throughout the whole game to really invest in bringing young players through.
Yeah, I think it's massive. It's instead of building from the top, and we've been guilty of it at Warrington, is building from the top and filtering down. It needs to go the other way. You need to build from the bottom, get your juniors right, and you'll be successful at the top, as the top clubs have been over the years. Now, Warrington are getting into that bracket now because we've got a strong base. Can we say that about half the clubs in Super League? Probably not. And that's where it needs to change. And this system of the under-19s is not working, and it's only going to get worse. We need to bring in an under-18s and maybe a 21s, because once these kids leaving school and they're 16 years of age to then go and play at under-19s level, that's a massive ask of them. Now, from under-19s to first team, that's another big jump, and that's the only stepping stones they've got. If we probably bring in an under-18s in, well, them 16-year-olds are only playing 2 years above their age, and then if they're good enough, they can go to 21s and play on a regular week-on, week-in basis, and taking a few knocks in and getting used to the strength of some senior pros. And then it's the next one's your first team, isn't it?
Like we both had the opportunity of playing in what was the old 18, the Alliance system. Now, it had its failings, don't get me wrong, but basically you were coming up, as me, both Lee and I, as teenagers, coming up against grown men on a weekly basis, which what it did do, it toughened you up, and it's
a steep learning curve.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of, you're thrown in at the deep end in a lot of respects. But you learn fast in that environment, and there's a few guys up there who like to rough you up, but it certainly stands you in good stead.
That can make or break you, can't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of these young lads kind of lack that at the moment. They're playing against their own age for far too long. Yeah. They need to come up against grown men. Not making your first team debut is the first time you played against someone who's 25 and above. It just can't work like that.
We're on the brink then of something, some would say exciting, a very, a big shake-up to Super League. Certainly we'll see some of it this year, but obviously more in 2015. Some would say it's controversial. Where do you guys stand on the changes? Was a change as big as this needed in Super League, do you think?
Promotion and relegation, I think, is good. It gives somebody in the lower leagues, if you like, an opportunity to come into the big time league and turn full-time professional.
I think what we're guilty of in rugby league, I think, is our kind of negative, overly negative too much. I think that goes for players, goes for supporters, goes for administrators. We need to be positive about the game. We've got a great game. We need to sell it. But I think we as players in particular, we need to realise that we're ambassadors for this game, and we really need to push it, because we've had, both Lee and I have had fantastic careers out of it, and it is a brilliant lifestyle. It's a brilliant way to earn a living. But I think we need, throughout the whole game, to really be positive about rugby league. I'm excited about the future of rugby league. I just wish that I could play for another 10 or 15 years. But I hope that the game goes from strength to strength, and perhaps that when I've retired, players are getting the riches and getting the rewards that I could only ever have dreamt of at this stage. But I want the game to grow, because if the game's growing, it's that's what we all want.
Well, do you think the quality of the game is going to change? Is it going to have an impact on the game? When you talk like with promotion and relegation, the latter game, the back end of the season are going to be so important. Every game is going to be important, isn't it? So it's going to impact on them.
That's what you want as players as well. You want to be playing competitive every single week, and I believe that this is what's going to make it happen. Like Paul said, there is too many people who's negative and too many bitter people out there.
I mean, you only have to look when there's people waiting just to criticise now. They could have come up with anything and it would have just got hammered.
Yeah.
No, let's give it a chance. Let's get behind it. Let's get people through the turnstiles. Let the players go out and we fulfil our end of the bargain by performing well at a high level, and let's be positive about it, because I think for the game to move forward, which is what we all want, we need to back it. And if we don't back it, then we're going to be sat here in 5-6 years' time having a very similar conversation.
There's too many people worried about what Rugby Union are doing, what the NRL do. We're not Rugby Union, we're not the NRL, we're Super League. We're English Rugby League and France, and we need it to be as strong as we can, and we need everybody on board. There's no point being negative, it's just got to be positive and make the best out of our situation.
I think some of the criticism has been it's a gimmick, it's too complicated, the 2 of 12 and then 3 into 8. Do you think it is still attractive to fans? Is it still exciting to watch it on TV? Is it still attracting new people through the turnstiles? And do you think this will as well?
We don't know till it's actually been done, but let's give it a chance. Let's not knock it down before it's even started. That's not going to give anybody the right image of rugby league. There's people in rugby league who want to knock it. Till it's tried and tested, we don't know. And let's just be as positive we can and try to make it happen.
I mean, and I'll be honest, I don't think it's too complicated. I think, I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge or anything like that, but 12 divided by or whatever it is.
I thought you had more complicated.
24 divided by 3 is 8, you know what I mean? And that's the way it works. 24 divided by 12 is 2. And, let's get on with it. It's great.
For a newcomer though, do you think that it's quite easy to follow?
Well, we're all going to be newcomers to this system, and we're all in the same boat unless you study it. And once you study it, it doesn't really take that long to know what's going on. How many's going now? 4, 8.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably the message to supporters was just turn up, watch the game, support your team, get behind them, get behind the game, because whoever you're playing on the weekend, just come and support your team. And that's all we want as players. Certainly me as a St Helens player, I just want the fans to turn up and get behind us, and I'm sure it's the same at every other club.
Has the Super League had a golden era then yet, personally for you, or do you think that's still
I think
to come?
There's definitely time for that to happen, and I think we're moving in the right direction. It's all positive. There's a bit of change, yeah, but there isn't that evolution. You need to change and to make things better, and let's hope that it's positive and it works.
I mean, I don't buy into this theory that the game was better so long ago. I think the game's constantly improving.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it just evolves. It's like people who play computer games. FIFA 2014 is better than FIFA 99. So, because things get better, people are running faster times in athletics. People are, fitter and faster in other sports. Football's getting better. And we as rugby league, we're no different. The product's getting better year in, year out. So, going back to what we said earlier on with the sports science, with the investments in the players. So I think it's only going to continue to grow, and I think that's something we can be really excited about.
I just say only time will tell. Certainly, Paul, we'll wish you all the best with it. It's always nice to get both of your thoughts. So thanks again for watching this latest edition of On Report.